Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monday Night Roundup here on Blood Bowl Live. Here to go through all of the games from the last week in the ADBBL Season 7. We are on to quarterfinals. Last 16 is done. We're in quarterfinal games, so we're starting to get the picture of what the final fours and medal places are going to be. And joining me this week, no, it's not a box of chicken wings. It is Mr. Scott Bryant. Scott, hello.
Yeah, good evening, Christopher. Good evening. Have you had any pre-drinks?
Not pre, sir. Not pre. And joining us as well. No, not my slow descent into insanity. Instead, it is Mr. Tom Hovell. Tom, hello, sir.
Good evening. How you doing?
Very good. Very good. We've got 5 games to go through from quarterfinals. We've got every game from the Champions playoff and 1 game from the conference to go through. Before we do, though, we're going to take a gentle stroll towards Scott's corner. Scott, what have you got for us?
So, come closer, dear ABBL listeners and viewers. Okay. So, for those who remember the good old days of Season 6 and some of the things we brought you the magnificence of the mug, the opportunity to have something tangible about why we love this game. And across society today, you'll notice there is a plethora of songs and books and art that declare need, whether it's everybody needs somebody, we all need somebody to love. Well, the real truth of the matter, dear coach, is that what any true Blood Bowl coach needs is merch. And as part of our ADBBL community, we know what you need, even if you don't know yourself. We all know you like new stuff. We know you like colorful stuff. We know that you like things to impress your friends and families, to become more popular in your social standing. We know you want to become more confident, that you can only roll ones for so long. We know you need and deserve all of those things and more, so you can say to yourself, I am a winner. We also know, as a great community we are, you also like stuff to help amazing causes such as Macmillan Cancer Care. So what do we have for you, dear listener, dear viewer? Imagine the scene. Come with me on this journey. You go into your local gaming establishment. There are some sad Blood Bowl coaches, as in they're feeling sad, not as in they're sad members of community.
Stop
Just to
digging.
clarify.
Stop digging, Scott.
Yeah.
Fine, all right.
Moving on.
Why are these coaches sadder than usual, you ask yourself? Have they been afflicted with the Scott Bryant dice curse and can only roll ones? You look and see they have nowhere to put down the refreshing drinks they are holding for an apparent fear of marking and damaging the furniture. Worse still, they appear not to have a directional template or a throwing guide anywhere. How will they know where the ball scatters and where they can throw things, whether it be animal, vegetable, or mineral? Yes, the Blood Bowl fate gods appear to be mocking these poor unfortunate souls who only want to roll dice and move unenvironmentally friendly pieces of plastic across the tabletop in their desperate search for fame and glory. Fear not, dear friends, for we bring you more merch, again, you didn't know you needed. Yes, the new ADBBL and Aardvarks and Dragons beer mats and drink coasters. Double-sided with things of beauties. You can use these to protect your furniture. You can use them to know where the ball will bounce or scatter. You can use them to know how far you can throw things. Have you been holding your drink far too long, unable to roll your dice or move your players for fear of leaving that drink ring marked on your mahogany Chippendale? This is what you need, dear listener, dear viewer. Be the envy of all Blood Bowl coaches and non-Blood Bowl people. Become the reason that people come to your house for social events. Are you having friends, family, or works colleague over for an alfresco event, some sort of barbecue that maybe other people get invited to, but your invite seems to get lost in the post? Fear not. This is what you need. This is the conversation starter and finisher you need. So for all events and needs, whether it's birthday, Christmas, anniversaries, nothing says I care more than an ADBBL drinks coaster stroke beer mat. So, are you a parent who needs a toy for small people to keep them entertained without the expense? These are for you. Are your kids bored? Let them discover beer mat flipping. Are you a ninja or assassin who's bored of killing people with knives, throwing stars or guns? Try an ADBBL beer mat. It's what John Wick would want. Are you building a 2-story extension on your house? Say no more. Are you trying to negotiate your way out of an awkward spot with some local cannibals deep in the jungle? Look no further. Such is the multifunctional role of these, it even has more than one name. Amongst your friends and special social individuals who should know better, it's the classic beer mat. Amongst colleagues or people yet to know your true identity, it's a coaster. For Blood Bowl coaches, it's a thing of beauty and craftsmanship and absolute desire. So, this is what you need in your life. So the next question you will ask is, okay, Scott, I'm sold. How many can I get? But how much is all of this magnificence, you ask? Let me tell you, it's not £10 for one. No, it's not even £5 for one. No, for £5 you will get 6. Dear listener, that's right, 6. So if you have an OCD problem with 5 for £5, we are thinking of you, dear listener, dear viewer. 5 for 6 of these magnificent 94mm rounded square, crafted from responsibly sourced cardboard pieces of marveling engineering wonder. Again, on the one side, your throwing template. On the other side, your direction, and even the little A&D logo down the bottom there. So whenever you need something, this is the place to be. If you want something, again, we are supporting Macmillan, so what money we make from these will go straight to that fantastic cause. Make your donation. Let us know through the usual ways how many packs you'll need. If you see myself, Chris, or Tom in store, don't run away screaming and accusing us of maybe shenanigans we shouldn't be doing. We can help you. You can give Mr. Scott Phipps money as well. You can also ask him about getting these in your life, or just give him money. He won't say no either way. If you're outside the UK and you are part of our international franchisee, let us know. Drop us an email. So send us the emails as usual, guys. If you don't see us out and about, to newdiceplease@gmail.com. That's newdiceplease, all one word, all lowercase, @gmail.com. Quick legal disclaimer asked by our legal representatives and not too expensive team. A reminder that ADBBL drinks, coasters and beer mats is a registered trademark absolutely nowhere. Your mats are at risk if you do not keep a payment, and your mat and yourself are important to us as always, and you will be answered as soon as one of our agents is available. Do not put anything on this product. Do not stay in the same room as a mat for more than 10 minutes. Open all windows and doors for maximum ventilation, and clean on a gentle wash at 30 degrees. If you want to eat it, we'll test that one out just to give you the official scientific reason as well. Are these flammable, and how many and how quick can they burn? We need to cover all bases because we care. We do care, dear listener. If you want to eat it or lick it, it's your call. However, all future recipes that do contain an ADBBL coaster is copyright trademark in as well. So any excuses for why are you buying more of that gaming stuff are available for free on request, and for a limited time only, you will get an excuse for buying more Blood Bowl stuff for every purchase of 2 packs or more. Stock is limited. It is the ultimate FOMO. So get donating, get in touch, get these into your life.
Scott's
Thank you,
Edinburgh
gentlemen.
Fringe show will be available if you're up at the Fringe. His one man show, how to successfully market to a Blood Bowl audience. I just want to make it clear that before we start recording, we determine whether or not we need to go to Scott's Corner, and that's the extent of the conversation that we have. Me and Tom agree. Yeah, we'll go to Scott's Corner, and then I just let him do it. There's no, like, just wanna,
and you take all responsibility here.
It's incredible. I mean, that one is worthy of a slot at the Fringe.
Thank you. I think you could classify that, Chris, as care in the community. You know, helping someone reach their potential with maybe a new career. You know.
I think so. Well, should we talk about some Blood Bowl games? Here we go.
By the way, sorry, just the last thing. The quicker people buy these, and we raise the money for Macmillan Cancer Relief, the quicker then I shut up not talking about them. So there's a bonus for you.
Yeah, the coasters do look great, and thank you to other Blood Bowl leagues around the country who gave them to people we then played, and we went, oh, we want to make some of them for our league because they're really handy. And yeah, get your hands on some of them. Let's go to our first game, shall we? Let's dive in. Let's talk about some Blood Bowl games, and we start with Nurgle versus Old World Alliance. One of a number of rematches. The way that the draw happened meant that we've ended up with a lot of intergroup rematches in the second round in the quarterfinals, which just seems to be the way that that Tour Play do it. Yeah, it meant we got a rematch of this game, which was always one that was going to be quite interesting because both coaches won a group game each against each other. But ultimately, the Old World Alliance have come out on top here. When the game started, they were taking a bit of a battering, but I believe that Scott here did purchase some linemen, some spare linemen, almost as cannon fodder, and I think it was mainly those spare linemen that ended up meeting their doom in this case. So, a tough game for Luke. He's had an incredible season. Tom, we'll come to you first. So I know that Scott dislikes this old world team as much as I dislike mine. He's having considerably more success than I am as he's gone along. And I think when the result of this game came out, I messaged him not to say congratulations, to say I'm really sorry that you've got to keep playing them for at least 2 more games. Unfortunate in many ways, but we've known Scott to win games 2-0 and comfortably regularly get through to like last 16s and last 8s, last 4s. Even though it's a team he doesn't like, Tom, we can't be surprised that he is once again in a semi-final.
Absolutely. No, you 100% agree. On paper, it looks that the Fetid Feet had the upper hand because, they were causing casualties early on by turn 2. So clearly they put pressure on the Old World Alliance to kind of force them to do a touchdown at turn 5, which is kind of unusual for Scott because he's usually a kind of a consistent player where he keeps the ball and
he's a staller. And he stalls well.
I didn't want to say that. That's an outrageous accusation. On that
Scott, you're a staller.
Someone clip that out and have it as a GIF on Scott's on the big screen and now in Scott's.
Yeah, we'll have it on a loop in the corner in the shop.
Exactly. Yeah. And also the fact was that just in the first half, the Fetid Feet caused 2 deaths, which is quite good, and got a new rot alignment for that. So you kind of think, well, that's really, really useful. But unfortunately, as you quite rightly put it, it was just the fact that Scott is very consistent. He knows how to play multiple teams as the seasons show. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out for the Fetid Feet, unfortunately.
I wonder, Scott, what you think about this, because I think that Scott's team, and we've seen this with Scott in previous seasons, that maybe I would argue the thing that he's best at is his defense. He very rarely concedes in league play. He's always up there at the top of having most clean sheets. Normally the games, if he concedes, it normally doesn't go his way. If he can keep a clean sheet, it's rarely a 0-0 draw. His defense, I think, is possibly the best part of his game. What do you think?
I agree with that. Having played him in season 6, I think I was the only one to score a touchdown against him, even though I did lose. He's very good. He will exploit any mistakes as best as he can as well. And yeah, despite the deaths, despite one lineman coming back as a rotter lineman, he's done what needs to be done, and it's more entertaining, especially the fact that he's not a big OWA fan. can't understand why. So throwing a little bit of very solid defensive play, exploiting any opportunities, and that fine bit of stalling that we've come to know and love. And I think he did very, very well indeed. Remember, though, Luke has done, as you mentioned, Chris, Luke has done exceptionally well in his first season. He has beaten the OWA already once. So it was, I believe, a 1-0 win and a 1-0 loss to them as well. So kudos to Luke for his fetid feats. He's done very well in terms of utilising the wonderful bits of Nurgle and the randomized random mutations. So, yeah, I think... on paper, I think Scott's experience came through, particularly with that team he's got. Would have been 3 without the Apox.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, would have been 3 deaths as well. So Luke and Scott are in chat. Evening, guys. Get your mats. So I think it's, it does seem that at the stage, quarterfinals into semi-finals, this is where experience really, really counts. And I think this is Scott. And it would be funny and ironic if he could do with the team he hates most what he's not been able to do yet in the entire previous ADBBL campaigns. So based on that, he gets my vote for the next match. I'm going to support him.
Yeah, there would be something really quite funny about this being the team that he has enjoyed the least and it being the one that gets him the title, because he's been semi-finalists almost every season, except last season was the only season he hadn't been a semi-finalist. He's been in the final 2 or 3 times and never won. So if he were to win with this Old World Alliance team, there would be something great about it. Like I've played against him when he's been using this team, and I know he doesn't like them, and I don't like them either. But he plays them in a sort of very methodical, kind of well thought out, well prepared way. So I think actually, if he wins with this team, I think it possibly sort of highlights how good of a coach he is in the league, that he can pick up a team that really he has no time for, but he is playing them very, very well. So I think that's worth noting. A shout out to Luke as well. I think even before this game, I had Luke in my mind as as for me, like rookie of the year. Having come in, I've played Luke 4 times, sort of in friendly games, and once when I was stepping in for Nick, and he really, more than a lot of coaches that I've played against, you can see him even just from something he'll do in turn 1, 2, and 3. If it doesn't go quite right or it's a bit different, like you see how quickly he learns from it. From turn 3 to turn 4, he will have learned and improved. Like the speed at which he has got better and and improved, and absolutely deserves his place in the last 8. And I think there are many draws that he could have got where he would maybe have even gotten further. So absolute shout out and credit to Luke for what I think is probably one of the best rookie seasons that we've seen. I think it's really impressive.
And that team now is skilled up to be definitely a redraft.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be a great team to bring back.
I have a quick question for you, Chris. In light of what we've seen Scott do with his version of OWA, does this make you even more angry against them? The fact that you might not have had quite a successful season, or has your dislike of them, is it just pure 100% dislike, irrespective of what you see other coaches do with them?
The volume of apathy that I have for OWA is just immeasurable. I think I could see Scott win this league, and I would be very happy for Scott to win the league, and it would not make me any happier or angrier that I have played them. Like I'm ready for my journey to have ended.
It just proves why they're one of the best teams out there, though. That's ultimately.
They're not, Tom. They're not. Let's move on to the Graveyard Groovers versus OTFC. we will jump into one of our many sibling matchups that we had in this quarterfinal draw, Robert versus James. And in a way, this result wasn't even remotely surprising. I think, I'm pretty sure each game that these two played against each other in the group stage ended in a 2-0 win for Robert. I think I might be wrong. I will just double check that. Let's have a look. Robert 2-0. Robert 1-0. So it probably wasn't surprising that we saw this coming. James, getting into this point in the draw, had already cemented himself as the stunty champion for the year. And I really enjoy the team that James has built here. I think it is really I don't know. I love it. It kind of makes me want to play my ogres a bit more, and try and play them maybe a bit more kind of sensibly than I maybe have in the past. And yeah, I really enjoy the team that he has built here. But Robert had the better of him, and Robert's had a very good season, a very solid season in what was a very strong group with James and John in there, comfortably winning the group, taking him through, comfortably getting through the next round. Uh, you could argue that he's been a bit fortunate with his draw because he got gnomes in the last 16 and then ogres in the last 8. So you could argue that he's been a bit fortunate with the kind of 2 stunties with a very bashy team behind him. But he still had to work for it. If you look at this against an ogre team, you would anticipate he'd get more than just the 1 casualty. He didn't. He's still got a good amount of SPP there, but it's only 1 casualty that he's got in the game. You'd think he'd get a bit more, but he's had a very strong season. And Scott, I'll come to you first. I think if I had to pick someone that I want to see lifting the trophy, while it would be entertaining to see Scott lift it with OWA, I feel like I want to see Robert in that final and with his hands on that trophy. That's my gut from the season he's had. What do you think?
I think I agree with you that he's had a great season. He's played some very good coaches, obviously a different amount of teams as well. And when you mentioned as well about playing Dave and his gnomes, it is a very much a sporting cliche, but you can only beat the team that's in front of you. And I think Robert has, continually successfully done that. He's chosen his skills well, and he's got a very good balanced side, for the Graveyard Groovers as well. So he's looking very good. He beat James, who'd obviously come off the back of beating, having that 1-0 win against Rich and the Rams, or that 1-0 half. James knows his ogres very well, so great match for Robert. Would I see Robert going all the way? If I'm honest with you, I'm going to be really interested how he plays against against in his semi-final. No spoilers, but in terms of that, really for me is going to be a different type of team and a different type of proposition from something he's faced before. And I think it's going to be the winner of that match for me, which will have the slight advantage over the bottom half of the draw.
Tom, you've played James's next opponent, Robert's next opponent, even. Tom, we've said multiple times after every game that we've reviewed of Tom's, we've said he's looking a little bit unbeatable this season. He is looking in a very, very strong position. Do you think? I think Tom hasn't faced a team that is maybe. I think both of these coaches, Robert and Tom, will come up against a team in the next round that they have not, a style of play they maybe haven't faced before. Who's your gut saying? Do you think Robert can bash his way through that Amazon team, or do you think Tom will have the edge?
It's very tight. So there's only 40 point difference between the two teams on team value. So realistically, you're looking just on the pure team that they have there. They're 2 completely different styles of play. Tom's got all the dodge and quite a lot of speed, whereas obviously Robert's got a lot of kind of block, but you've got those defensive Jaguar blockers in that team. I think that Tom might just edge it, unfortunately. On this particular game, but against James, it does seem quite a quiet one, actually, from the Ogre side. Looking back through the previous games that led to this one with the OTFC, they used to have quite a lot of things on the actual timeline of fouls, of blocks, of everything along those lines. But this time, it's very quiet. So I don't know whether it's unfortunately a curse of the Nuffle dice or not. But it seemed to be a very quiet looking game.
Yeah,
I believe
not the
there's quite a
most
bit of
things on
regen
here.
in. I believe from Discord, from James, there was quite a bit of regen in this one as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I think I don't know. James is one of my favorite coaches. The attitude he brings to every game. I've only ever played against James once in a sevens game, and it was one of the most entertaining games for kind of nonsense. And it's nice to play against a coach who kind of, when you're thinking of the kind of like, who enjoys the ridiculous things that you're doing as much as you are, even if they're happening against him. And I think that's a trait that if anyone plays against James, you'll recognize, and I think you will. Like, I think if there's any trait that every coach could kind of pick up, it's when the nonsense is happening to you, enjoy it as much as if you were doing it. And James very much does that. And I think I've been slightly gutted that I've not played against him with his ogre team, because I think ogres I think are a very fun team to play. And I feel like this is the ogres' second season. I don't think we're getting ogres next season. I think he's going in a
Really?
different direction, and
Right.
I'm kind of sad that I didn't get to play them. So, James, if you're watching this afterwards or you're watching this live and you fancy a league teams friendly, I would love to give these ogres a game, even if I think I'll get battered by them, because I just think it would be fun.
Those
Good luck.
ogres are amazing, though. Have you seen the skills on them?
They
They
do look
are
they do look
phenomenal.
incredible. I think they look like so much fun to play. Like, he's put
God,
the effort to
Lord.
get them to this point. He's got a blodger with break tackle. That's an incredible ogre. Like, that's a gutter runner of an ogre. It's amazing. I love it. So, but Robert, all the best in the next round. I'm absolutely rooting for you and in your corner. I think the consensus here is that Robert goes into that next round as the underdog. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So, good luck, Robert. I will be cheering for you in that game. We move away from the Champions Trophy and we dive into the conference to a game that, I'll be honest, this game I believe was happening at the same time as the Amazons versus the Lizardmen. And the Amazons versus the Lizardmen, we were streaming, and I had my eyes on that one. So when I've kind of I kept keeping an eye on that result and looking at the stream, and then suddenly I checked Tour Play and saw this game had ended 3-2 and was like, have I just missed an incredible game that's happened here? John getting a great result in this one, and Simon, if you're watching this, Simon, as your first season, John is an incredibly experienced and talented coach. A 3-2 loss here in the quarterfinals is an incredible result, and it sounds like it was a really fun game. So well done for kind of giving John as good as you got there. Um, um, 2 one-turn touchdowns, John is saying, that happened in this one. Tom, we'll come to you first. We know that vampires can be temperamental, I guess is the way to do it. It looks like in this one, first half, John sort of managed to keep it steady till the end of the half. And then everything happened in the second. A quick touchdown, followed by a one-turner, followed by a quick touchdown, followed by a one-turner. It sounds like the vampires John can correct us in the chat, but it sounds like the vampires behaved themselves.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It looks like it. But as you say, they've clearly been suddenly coming to their fore, the vampires on this side. And just to echo what you just said, Black Orcs are not the easiest team to bring to a league. Yes, you've got that nice 6 strength 4, but they're not fast. They're not fast movers. So he's obviously taking good use of throwing those goblin bruisers to get those touchdowns, which is fantastic to see. Yeah, it just looks like he's done really well. The throwers have been, they're the backbone of a vampire team. If you don't take at least both those throwers, or one thrower and 2 runners, then you've got a real struggle on your hands. But they really seem to be doing very well. It's just a shame that they've suddenly started to decide to play when we're this far into the league.
Scott, let's talk about, before we talk about John's chances going forward, let's have a little look at Simon's team here. Simon's first season in the ADBBL. And he just missed out. It was very close in their group as to who was going to get that second place. Only just missed out on getting through to the top half of the draw. But looking at some of the skills he's got a good mix there of kind of chosen skills and random. He's sort of got some good players there. He's got some SPP kind of sitting on some players. Are you looking at this team as a strong one to redraft? I'm sort of scrolling through here and I'm seeing maybe 3 that I might keep hold of, but otherwise probably not too many. What do you think?
First of all, again, just a shout out to Simon. Well done, Simon, on your season 7 performance, and to echo Chris's sentiments, you've gone up to a very, very fine coach. Mr. Reader himself, the man, the myth, the legend. Agree with you. Simon's done very well in terms of he's got a good balance between chosen skill and some random skills as well. If I was looking at this team, agree with you, Chris, would I keep everybody? Obviously, I'd keep that your Black Orc who's got block and tackle, always a good one. You've got your Black Orc with block and thick skull. Thick skull's obviously going to be help when you do get punched in the face. It's only going to benefit your armor value of 10 as well. And in terms of train troll with guard, that's not a bad thing to have as well. And then the one I would think about keeping as well would be Moonface, because he's got sneaky git and sidestep. So if you can use him correctly to take off anybody who your big guys have put on the floor, that's not going to be a bad thing. It will make other people think as well. Some of the other things, sidestep, defensive, safe pair of hands on kick the trick. Defensive, not really the best for a lineman. Sidestep and safe pair of hands, not too bad. There could be a lot worse out there as well. But I think there's at least, there's 3-4 good players who can give Simon a really good base and a foundation to build on for next season, if he decides he wants to stick with Black Orcs.
If someone wants to just confirm this for me, I just had this thought in the moment here. So that goblin that has sidestep, defensive, and safe pair of hands. Safe pair of hands, I know that obviously if you get knocked down and you've got the ball, you can place
Put
the
it
ball
where it wants.
somewhere.
Yeah.
If someone can check this now, just to know, is that just if you go down? Because I'm just thinking, if that's the goblin that you choose to throw with the ball, then if you drop it, but you can choose where you place it, I feel like that's kind of making the best of a bad situation. Scott is corrected with an empty square.
If this player is knocked down or played prone, but not if they fell over whilst in possession of the ball does not bounce. Instead, you may place the ball in any unoccupied square adjacent to the one to this player.
So I would like to rule that it's if you're placed prone. So if you fail a rush or if you are thrown and you don't land, you can place the ball, which I think does kind of. I feel like it makes them a slightly better player to throw, because you can have a bit more control about where that ball lands in relation to your opponent. So I'm looking at that player as one to keep. I'm looking at a couple of those orcs. I think maybe a troll with armor with movement 3, even though it's got guard, possibly has to go. I'm not sure. A word on John then before we move on to the next game. Not John's best season, but comfortably, I use John. I've played John 5 times now, over 7s and 11s, and John is my barometer as to how well I think I've played. I tend to think if I've given John a run for his money, I've played quite well. And to be clear, I've only ever done that twice. Well, 3 times. Maybe 3 times I've given him a run for his money, and only in 2 of those times out of the 5 have I won. So John is a very good coach, and you can tell that by his team, by the patience he's given with choosing block, dodge, pro, block, dodge, strip ball, block, block, block. Like he's waited, he's not randomed, he's not rushed it. I think I feel like it's difficult to not say that John is a favorite for the conference, based on his experience. You know, do you guys think that there is a coach left in this conference who is more likely to be a favorite than John? Sorry, Scott.
just if you want to say, Scott, I think you're a shit coach, just say it, Chris.
Yeah.
I won't be offended. Just like,
Hey,
you know.
I've discounted myself in
Hey,
this argument as well.
If you think myself and Harrison, I put this out to you as a fellow coach in the conference and to everybody else as well, and to Jane, because we've still got a match. So yeah, and to Phil. Basically, guys, Chris thinks we're all scum, or either that, or he owes John money. So what is it? What's going on?
What is it?
Even John has said that any non-vampire coach is more of a favorite than John, in the bottom half. I think on experience, John is probably the biggest threat, and I think second to John is the winner out of Elliot or Harrison. With the best will in the world and on the best game that I could play, I think me, Phil, you and Jane, Scott, I think we go into those games as underdogs, and that could work to our advantage. You know, I like being the underdog in a game. I'd much rather be the underdog than a favorite. I just think John can pull it out when he needs to. Don't clip that bit. But
yeah, I think.
Can we get our lawyers on the case?
Yeah, exactly. We've everything we've said so far, and this is just basically going to mean that we're banned from YouTube. Any of these segments are going to be banned.
Well, it's been a good
whoever
run.
out of Jane or Scott plays him, that's going to be a really interesting game, and I'd love to see that one, if possible, be actually streamed, because, as you say, both necromantic horror, wood elves, and vampires, they're all got a little bit of an agile. There's lots of fun in all of them, and I think it'd be a really, really interesting next stage on all those.
Well, let's go back to the Champions Draw. We'll go to our live game that we broadcast this week, which was the Double Yolks versus the Lustrian Legends. A 3-1 win for the Lustrian Legends. Yep. Another game that was a repeat of a group stage fixture for these two. And the Amazon team won. I mean, we've said it already. A team that looks unbeatable here, and I think I want to start. Scott, I'll start with you because you played both of these coaches.
Yeah.
I think I want to say this in a way that's not going to immediately make you come at me.
Don't clip that.
So,
Tom Hovel has just got the most filthiest mind, and so smut innuendo. It's like having our own Carry On film personified. For the young kids out there, you need to go and have a look at what Carry On films are. But Tom Hovel is our own little.
I'll try and say this in the right way, Scott.
I played them both, yes.
Of all of the coaches, so it was very tight between second, third, and fourth in your group. Yep. Any of the three of you, I think, could have deserved that second place. I would say that of the three of you in that group, and actually of the coaches that have played, Tom, I might include you in this sort of field because you played Tom in the last 16.
Yeah.
Sam, I feel, has given Tom the closest run for his money over the games that have been played. I feel it just feels like he was I think Tom was a level above everyone. He's made this incredible team, but I think Sam was the closest to making a breakthrough, especially in that 3-2 loss that he had against Tom. So I had some hopes for this game. Ultimately, Tom's come up on top, but I think that's credit to Sam for where he's brought this Lizard team to.
I think Sam did do very well. I think where sort of Tom really shone in our division as well was especially against similar edge sort of strength teams as well. The Lizard Men with their Sauruses, with the Crocs, were able to, offer up something a bit more different as well, backed up by their Skinks. However, the one thing watching this match, and you can go back, as everybody mentioned, and watch it again on YouTube, everybody. When you watch it, I think it was interesting what Sam did. So Tom won the kickoff, elected to receive, made his classic boat, and I thought Sam was going to go stack one side heavy to go for that quick touchdown. Was Tom, encouraging him to get the 1-0 and then go for the 2-1 win? Now, we know Tom is really, really good at playing that style of game. Sam actually failed the pickup and failed the pickup re-roll at the start. And he had come across with a chameleon and there was no support players around. So as soon as you fail out without doing any real blocks, the Amazons came around, pressured it, took the ball, scored 1-0. To compound it again then on Sam's second receive. So he got the ball second time as well. Failed the pickup again, and then straight through Tom came through, pressured, picked up the ball, went down and scored as well. And then on Sam, even towards the end of that half as well, his Crocs failed one key blitz opportunity as well, and that really, really impacted him. So losing, when the dice aren't on your side, when you're losing those re-rolls, it was a big, big challenge. And we talked about this before. Tom, you've seen it firsthand as well. When there is an opportunity, Mr. Hund will exploit it. He will not, he is, I wouldn't quite say merciless, but he is a bit Ming the Merciless. He will absolutely, take advantage of that as only he can as well. So he played well. And if you just look at the winnings as an example, a lot of fans, so he's got the money and the income coming in on this team, who at the moment have a lot up their sleeve. They look frankly terrifying. And he can always call and just pick up another warrior thrower if he wants. Not that a warrior thrower who's got block, accurate, and sure hands is always a bad thing to have. So, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Sam had a bit more strength in his troops than maybe Tom has come up with. But I still think that on paper, Tom is looking ridiculously good.
He does look very strong. I think he's going to be difficult to beat. Well done, Sam, for a great season. I messaged him when the game was up, and I without any kind of favoritism, I genuinely look at Sam's Lizard team and would like the way that he's sort of been very patient with them. If I had a Bitey Ducks team that became this, I would be very, very pleased with myself. It is a very strong team. I'm sure that anyone else in the league who has played Lizards, that's the kind of way that Sam did it from last season to this season, been patient, picked his skills, saved up his SPP. He's got some very enviable players in this squad, which I think are really, really is it's taken some patience and some building. And I would be very happy to play this Lizard team in another season. So well done to him. Tom, we've said how much Tom. I mean, Scott summed it up perfectly there with the skills that he's got there. There's only 3-4 skills in that team that have been randomly picked. There's a lot of SPP sat there. I feel like there's definitely a redraft here, whether he wins it or not. I would hope that he would look to redraft whether he wins it or not. What do you think is needed to stop him? I guess is the question, because I think it's very clear at this point what he's got that is kind of like in his favor. Like he's got an incredible team there. He's got a very, very good team, and he clearly knows how to play them. What do you think is needed to stop Tom at this point? If you were giving any advice to either of the coaches he may face in the next 2 rounds, what would you give?
Well, it's not just the team; it's the coach as well. Tom knows the game very well. He's worked out how to position pieces exceptionally well, and put pressure very quickly on you. Equally, he does it very quickly. So that is one thing I know that Scott gave me advice, and I completely disregarded it on my game and got myself in a wild state. But Tom is very, very good player. But then again, he's up against Robert in the next one, who is equally as skilled and as confident as a coach as he is. If this gets redrafted, I don't want to be in that position. It is a shocking team on the basis that he has everything in there. He knows very well how to play each of his players. And I think that's the main key thing he also does. He understands what the skills that he currently has and also the new skills he's put on them do. So he does that very well. He's the first person I've ever seen who uses hit and run on a regular basis and uses it very well.
And hit and run is an incredible skill. The more that I think about it and the more I see it used, the fact that it can basically give that blitzer movement 8, you can you can kind of use it to score without rushing. Like the kind of offensive kind of applications of it are incredible. Amazons are a team that I know you've played them. Scott, would you play Amazons? Because I look at them as a team that I feel like have such potential, and if you can kind of cling on to them, that they can be so. I think this proves how strong the Amazon team is. I always look at them as in comparison to Norse, and I always feel like Norse are the stronger of the two. Not like physically, they are physically the stronger of the two, I think probably, but I feel like they're the more balanced team. But the more I look at Tom's Amazons, the more I think there's a trick here that I've missed.
I think they are flip sides of the same coin, really. Obviously, the Norse have their block, the Amazons have their dodge. Do I look at? I think every single one of your players has a skill. Every one of them has an inbred skill, so it's not as if any one of them is particularly missing. Yes, we know from other times we've seen Amazons in the past as well that, like any edge team, they can be very susceptible to an absolute good kicking. And as soon as they start losing 1 or 2 players, especially with Armor 8, that can cause issues and difficulties for them. They haven't got a big guy as well. They do have some good star players, but they've got no big guy. Do you really need them when you've got, strength 4, you've got defensive and dodge in there as well? You start putting block and guard as Tom has done, and it gives people things to worry about as well. And a 3-up dodge with a reroll, that's always a good thing to do as well, isn't it? So I think when they get to a certain level like this with some key players, when they're played in a really good style, I think they're very, very difficult to beat indeed. Would I play them? Yeah, possibly in the future. Because again, they are basically like elves, aren't they? But they, instead of having the 2-up edge, they've got 3-up, but they've got that inbuilt dodge, which is phenomenal. I think it's a really, really good one to have as well.
It's not as reliable as elves, though. Just be aware of that. So, but going back to that hit and run, the way that Tom uses it, he effectively has 3 blitzers. Because what he'll do is he'll blitz with normally with a Jaguar blocker, but he would have positioned those blitzes in a way that if he can, he'll have them already next to some of your players, and then he'll basically be able to hit that person and move away as well. So he's effectively moving 2 squares away, so he's using up those points. Yeah, great.
I've been briefly joined by a small creature who wanted to get into my office. I thought it was easiest to just let them in. You want to go now? Right, off you go. That was a brief interlude. Let's move on to the next game, then the final game of the week, which is the Dwarfs versus the Shambling Undead. A 2-1 victory to Dead Star Belgrave in this game. And now I wasn't there. I'm only kind of taking based on when the game ended, how the things that we've kind of been told from people who were also there. It sounds like there were so we know there were a lot of casualties, 4 for the dwarfs, 3 for the shambling undead. Injury wise, that would sort of imply that regen did its job a little bit here. And the impression that I've got from this game, and I'm happy for someone to correct me, is that there were more knockouts than we saw, because Torplay doesn't tell us about the knockouts. And I believe at the point where it ended 2-1, Jamie only had about 3 dwarfs left to field, which may have been why the game ended at 2-1. A difficult game for Jamie then, Tom. I think I know that Jamie is a coach who loves the Dwarfs, will likely only bring the Dwarfs again next season. But actually, the more I see Jamie play this Dwarf team, the more I think it's just a matter of time before we see him in a semi-final. It's his second season getting through to the quarterfinals. Last season, he lost out to Elliot, who went on to be champion. This season, he's lost out to Dave Rue, who is an incredible, experienced coach. To be in Jamie's credit, I think it's only a matter of time before we see him get further.
Absolutely. Yeah. This dwarf team is immense. You know, that is lots and lots of mighty blow and guard on like blitzers, linemen, troll slayer, and you know, bringing in that death roller as well. It's ridiculous. It is a formidable team. It's another team that if it gets redrafted, I don't want to see it. Hopefully him and Tom will go in the division together, and that's fine by me. So I'll stay as far away from this as possible. And again, like you say, we've said it many times on these chats. It is one of the things that Torplay, if you are listening, please just allow us to specify what's been knocked out or taken off the pitch, because it really does not give the full picture.
One of the things which I believe there was an element of controversy with this game as well. I believe at one point Mr. Ryu had, whether it's inadvertent or not, you make up your own mind. He had 12 players on the pitch at one stage.
Oh well, I mean,
So
at what point was that? At what point was that caught? Because obviously,
I believe that was caught on pretty early, and Coach Acreedy stepped in, as he always does, in terms of his impartiality, but wanting to see fair play and justice brought the heathens. And I believe they rolled for a random someone to get sent off, and it was close to being one of the mummies, but it wasn't.
See now, I mean, I feel like I should,
everything.
With my position within the league,
turn one. Thank you, Scott.
I should know this with my position turn one. I absolutely should know this. But was it randomly, and Scott in the chat, Acredes, you can tell us this. Was it randomly selected who then went off the pitch, or did Jamie choose a player to go off the pitch? Because I thought it basically, if you catch someone in that position, David argued the call and rolled a 6. Oh wow, okay. So he chose, got sent off, argued the call, rolled a 6, stayed on. Wow. Now,
that was lucky.
That's a very lucky situation. It's tricky, isn't it? Because I've been in games where I've accidentally put too many people on. They've normally been like friendlies or went to the reserves went to the reserves, so they didn't stay on, they weren't sent off, just went into the subs bench. Okay, right, understood. It's tricky. I do not believe I don't think any coach in our league would do it deliberately, and when it happens, it's always tough. And actually, I sometimes think that as a league, we are maybe just too much of a bunch of nice guys. Because absolutely, there's no way in hell that Dave would have put 12 players on deliberately, and we would have, I think most opponents, especially if it's caught on turn one, would probably be like, we'll just take one off, put it in, and that's great. That's a really good testament to us as a league as to how nice everyone is and how much we kind of value fun games as opposed to penalizing someone for the sake of being penalized. And we've seen it in previous seasons, and it's a real testament to kind of us as a group. Does that sometime, if none of us knew each other and we weren't maybe the community that we were, would we maybe encourage more just, randomly selected, get it off and, abide by the rules of the book? Maybe. I'm glad that we do it the way that we do. I think it's a credit to us as a group, and a credit to Jamie and Dave and Scott for resolving this in shop in a way that meant that they still had a sort of a good and entertaining game. Just one more thing on Jamie's team before we turn around to look at Dave's chances in the next round. The problem that Jamie will start to have is that if he continues to redraft these dwarves, they get more and more expensive. So for each additional season they play, it's another 20k. So I don't know how many seasons this dwarf blitzer has played in, but he's got 21 out of 24 SPP up there at the top, and he's got guard, mighty blow, block, thick skull. That is a terrifying player to redraft at the moment. He's then got the dwarf lineman with 10 SPP. He's got a dwarf runner with 12. If he only brought back those three, he could be starting next season with 3 absolute superstars. So, question for both of you two then. I know that Scott is in the same camp as me as just not having the willpower to save up 21 SPP. I could never do it. I would be clicking that random or choosing the skill far too early. How much is something like Jamie's doing here and kind of the way he's saving up this SPP? And we look at Jane and we look at Sam, who both sat on SPP for one season to immediately give them a big boost starting the next one with a cheaper redraft. How much are both of you tempted to do something similar? How much are both of you tempted to maybe have a season with a team where you sit on SPP, redraft for a cheaper fee, and then start the following season with somewhat of a superstar? How tempted, and do you have the willpower to do it? Because I don't.
I think from my personal perspective, I don't have the willpower to stay with one team, let alone stay and do up the SPP.
Have you ever redrafted, Tom?
Nope, never redrafted. No. And ironically, I actually think that my human team may be the first redraft. So for the first 2 seasons I played, I randomized everything because I was still learning the game. And that's one thing I need to do. I need to learn the game before I have the confidence to store it up. And just out of curiosity, he's on 21 out of 24. If and when he gets to 24, what does that give you?
SPP or a primary or a secondary you can get, can't you?
At what point? He's already got 2 chosen skills, so is 24 a stat increase?
Yes, would be.
Strength 4 dwarf blitzer
with mighty blow.
Nice.
I mean, that's an incredible player, isn't it? Scott, what about you?
I've done that this year for the first time because usually I'm like you, Chris, have SPP, spend it, press that randomize button as quick as you can, as often as you can. Gives you some interesting combination. Some teams, obviously, that Nurgle seem to be doing better out of it than other teams. And for me as well, this is the first time I know which players. I've already known which players I'm going to take forward to draft for next year. I've got the basics for a good team. I've got a number of players who I know are not going to go ahead, so they'll be kicked out. And I've got So I can do it, but it's not easy. It's not easy, trying to resist that temptation to go randomize.
We'll
But
move
I
on.
couldn't. One thing I couldn't do. Sorry, Chris. I wouldn't be if I've got enough SPP to select a chosen skill, I will do that skill. What I will struggle with is, could I save up to go for a stat increase, even if it was a basic with no extra skill? So you're 18 SPP. Could I save that much up? I would struggle because I know I'd get to 17 and then I'd get 18 SPP, like happened to Flamingos this year. And then as soon as you get enough SPP, your guy gets killed.
Yeah, I think thinking about lizards being the team that my normal go-to, like Sam managed to save up on a skink. I'd be so terrified that skink would die. I'd want to get them, they're sat there with that much SPP. I could give them block and something else. I'd be so terrified to hold on. Let's look at Dave then. Dave going through to the next round. He's got a matchup against Old World Alliance. Looking at this team, he's been very patient. There are only 3 randoms in this team. They're all on zombie linemen, guard on a mummy, guard brawler on a mummy, a white blitzer with tackle and mighty blow, ghoul runner with block, strip ball, jump up, ghoul runner with block, tackle, ghoul runner with sprint, sure feet. This is a very, very good team. And again, he is sitting on SPP. He is that game against the OWA. He doesn't need many skills on many players to already be picking a second, third skill or randoming a third skill. This is a very strong team. He's maybe paying for it in team value, possibly going into the next round, especially against the Old World Alliance team, whose team value is, I think, slightly low. Oh, actually, not that much lower. He's only given away about 50k at the moment to OWA, which is, a keg, a mascot, something like that. We talked about whether Tom or Robert have what is in there to go all the way. We've talked about the fact that it would be hilarious to see Scott go all the way. What are Dave's chances here? Is Dave almost going under the rate? Out of the 4 of them, is Dave almost the kind of bottom of the run, not because of his skill or his team, but because he's not necessarily kind of been the headline? So is he kind of going into this semi-final and possibly final or third place playoff as somewhat of an underdog? Because we're not talking about Dave maybe as much as we're now talking about Robert or Tom or Scott.
For me, I think that, first of all, as much as my heart says I'd love to see the Hudel Hellions win just to annoy Scott, Coach Creedy's there, just so he has to play them for one more game and one more game. I still feel up against it at the moment. I think Dave is looking maybe too strong for the OWA in this side of the draw. When you put Dave, then if Dave goes through against, and let's say whether it's Tom or whether it's Robert, I think of all the coaches there, I think Dave does have the nous to actually, take this title. I think this is a great shot for Dave for the title. I still would put my money on Mr. Huns and his Amazons, even though they've got 1 season less than Dead Star Belgrave. But I still think it's there. I still think it's a big opportunity for Dave to take this title.
Tom?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? There are a lot of very good players that have constantly getting to the semi-finals already and have got experience. You've got Tom, who's got a fantastic team there. But don't discount Robert with his Shambling Undead. There's clearly something about the Shambling Undead. I've never actually played against them, but there's now 2 of them in the semi-finals. So they're clearly a good all-rounder team. So, maybe you two can give me some kind of input on that. But then equally, you've got Old World Alliance. So I'd love to see the Old World Alliance win it.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes.
Shambling is interesting because they've got that strength in those mummies, the sort of the slow but the strength. Playing against them, I played against them twice last season, had one game that felt relatively comfortable and one game that absolutely didn't, and I got destroyed. So I don't know. It's tricky team to unpack. They are one of the more recent teams that have been added to Blood Bowl 3. So possibly that's kind of getting them maybe a bit more out there with the practice that people can have. What I think is interesting before we move on from this game is that it feels like I think that in Tom versus Robert, you've got two young, incredibly strong coaches in one half of the draw. In Dave versus Scott, you have got two very experienced coaches who have played a lot of Blood Bowl for a very long time, and you've
I think the
almost
word
got
is veteran. That's the word you're politely looking for, veteran.
like it's it's really tricky because I feel like I want Robert to win this season, but I feel like Dave or Scott almost deserve a title. And I'm really struggling to kind of, I don't know, I'm so torn between these four. It's I think it's one of the strongest top four that we have had, coach wise certainly. And it's such a difficult one to call now. It's so tricky.
My only Chris, is that, and my only hope is that the matches are decided at the end of extra time. Extra time is okay. I don't want. I think roll-offs would not be fair.
No.
Yeah.
So therefore, we've all agreed. Matches, gentlemen, to be settled through the medium of dance. Get your lycra. Get ready.
Sort it out, guys. Get ready to dance. That's it. That's all of our games. Then that's our 5 games for this week. We will fly through our final bits then. Game of the week, then, gentlemen. We all know how much I love the one-turn touchdown with a throw teammate. So I'm giving game of the week to, in my opinion, I'm going for the Vampires versus the Blackhawks because Blackhawks. There's nothing more terrifying than being in the lead, and every time you take a bigger step in the lead, your opponent just throws teammates and brings it back to a smaller gap. Nothing more terrifying than that. Absolutely love it. I'm going for the 3-2 myself. Tom, what's your game of the week?
I'm going to go for the Double Yolks versus Lustering Legends. I think that was a very good game, and it was just a bit unfortunate for Sam. But all the best, Tom.
Scott, game of the week?
Game of the week, I'm going to go for Dave against Jamie. I think despite Mummygate, I think it showed two very good coaches, lots of good stuff happening, and it showed the ethos of our community, which is a very good thing.
Player of the week, then. This is a more tricky one. I feel like lots of players had a very good week. I don't know if there is necessarily a kind of a standout person. I'm not too sure. Do either of you have a particular player that you're kind of calling on in this one?
I was going to go for why do their names happen? Sududia, whatever, the Python Warrior thrower for Tom. Tom, can you just call them simple names like Bob, Gary, Steve, Chris, Tom, Scott? Just come on.
That's the request. If you could just rename your Python thrower Scott Bryant, just to make it easier for the
Scott Bryant, just like the Monty Python thing of Bruce. Yeah.
Looking at that game, it's difficult to see past that Python thrower, isn't it? 2 touchdowns, 2 completions, and MVP at the end. Probably tour play named them, not you. All right, Tom, we'll let you off then. But if you could just rename number 5 Scott Bryant, we would all absolutely love you for it.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Tom, what do you think Python thrower as well?
No, I'm going to go with Count Magnus von Impaler. So on John's vampire team, seems to have got himself running around that pitch and doing quite a lot of work on that game. So I'll give it to them.
And if we're going bounty of the week, I've got to be honest. I feel like I feel like that Python thrower needs a bounty on their head based on their performance in that game. Looking at the skills that Python thrower has as well: block, sure hands, accurate dodge, on the ball, pass and safe pass, 14 SPP, 11 completions, 7 touchdowns, 2 MVPs. That thing's got to go, right?
100%. 100% agree.
I think we've called it out as a bounty before, but no one's actually taken up the mantle. So I think we need to think about putting a bounty online for it.
Robert, if you're watching, if you're listening, that's the one you've got to go for, mate. That will,
Yeah.
even if a bounty isn't put on there, I'll buy you a biscuit if you get it dead. That's our bounty. Then that's our star player. That's our game of the week. That's all of our games gone through. Fantastic. We've got 3 games hopefully happening this week. Fingers crossed, 3 games. Which will happen this week. We'll go over those next week, and then we will be straight into the semi-finals. We've got some really strong-looking semi-finals in both sides of the draw, with some really interesting matchups going on there. Scott, good luck with your game against Jane. Myself, hopefully, if my game goes ahead, good luck for me against Phil. Harrison and Elliot, good luck to the pair of you in your game as well. Thank you, everyone, for getting involved in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for watching. That's us for this week. Don't forget the coasters. They are fantastic. Scattergraph on one side, passing chart on the other. What more do you need from something to rest your lovely chilled can of soft drink for on in the shop? Get in touch if you want one of those and we will sort you out. Thank you, everybody, for watching. That's us for this week. We will see you next week with more action from the ADBBL. We'll see you then.